Hey guys, my name is Daniel and welcome back to the Motordan's Garage, and today we are going to be fitting a cam chain tensioner extender on my 2002 Kawasaki Meanstreak. Now this is a common problem with the 1500 and 1600 Kawasaki range, and what happens is the cam chain sort of stretches and becomes too much for the cam chain tensioners, generally pretty quickly actually. So there's this wee extension piece that we fit on the end of the cam chain tensioner, and that just allows you to take up extra slack in the chain. It's a super simple job. I've already done the rear one, so I'm just going to show you how to do the front one and we'll go from there. So I paid $35 for this. It came with two of these wee blocks from Amazon, 35 American, so it's around about 55, 60 New Zealand I paid for them delivered, which I didn't think was too bad. Right, let's get to it. So this is the cam chain tensioner for the front cylinder, and to start off with, we need to slacken this 8mm bolt here. Now bear in mind I've got an aftermarket air filter on my bike, so generally there is a big round air filter here that mounts here and here. So if you've got a stock Meanstreak, you will have to take that off first. So first thing you want to do is take this 8mm bolt out and watch, because there is a little crush washer on there, which I did just drop. So make sure you don't lose that. That's it there. And now we want to take off this big cap at the back, which is a 12mm. There will be a wee bit of spring tension on here, but it's not really too much. And you might want to put a wee rag just in here, because there may be a wee bit of oil. There was a bit of oil on the rear cylinder that came out. So pull this out of here, and there is the cap, then a wee bearing retainer, and a bearing, and then there's two springs in there also. One little one and one big one. So if we take all this out and put it to the side just now. And now we want to take off the two Allen keys here, two 5mm Allen keys, and take the actual tensioner off itself. And keep them to the side. And now we just want to remove the whole tensioner body. Now it will be a wee bit tight, so you just got to wiggle it. Cracked her loose, and we just pull it back and out. So this is the stock chain tensioner here. Now if I go, so that was one click away from being fully extended there. Now my bike's done 42,000 Ks, so in reality that was near enough end of its life. If I didn't do this upgrade, what would end up happening with that chain start slapping around, and what it's going to do is it's going to wear through the spark plug tubes and start spewing all the oil out there. And when that happens, you're in for some serious repairs. So anyway, this is what we're fitting. So you can see this top cap on there, and this is how we're going to extend it. So that sits on there like that. So you can see there's a good bit of extension there. But first we need to cut this wee top cap off, which is quite easy to do. You need either a grinder or a wee Dremel or something to cut that off. So what you want to do is just put two wee cuts into it, opposite sides from each other, and just be very careful you don't cut the actual tensioner itself. So basically that's how you want to cut it. You want to cut it sort of a wee slit either side. You don't have to go all the way through, but as far as you can go without damaging the tensioner itself. Then you want to get a pair of pliers on there, and there you go. So you can see that that's just broken off there. So I just cut through just enough, get my pliers on, and break off and pull it off. And you can see that I haven't nicked the tensioner at all. If you did nick it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Just get a wee file or some memory paper and clean it up best you can, because the new one does cover it. Right, so now that's cleaned off, cut off, we just want to give everything a wipe down and a clean up. These are all the parts down here for the tensioner. So just give everything a wee wipe up. If you've got some brake cleaner, you can spray it on. So now we want to get some Loctite. This is just some Worth high strength bearing retainer. And you just want to put a wee bit in here of the tensioner and then stick her on. And that's like that. So now if we just push this wee tab in the bottom here, we can push that tensioner all the way back in. And if we just let this sit for 5-10 minutes, let that bearing retainer just sort of harden a wee bit. While that's hardening, I'll just come over and just give this gasket surface a wee wipe down. Now what I like to do, just because it's a wee paper gasket, is just put a thin smear of grease just on the gasket surface. That just means if we've ever got to take that tensioner off again, it's going to come off pretty easy, ideally without damaging that gasket. Now if I was to remove that tensioner and the gasket got torn, which is can be known to happen with paper gaskets, you'd have to replace that gasket. We may end up still having to replace that gasket yet because paper gaskets aren't generally the best at being reused. However, I didn't get one, so we're going to just try and see. And if it leaks, then we'll just have to pull it off again. It's not a massive job. Right, so now that Loctite is set enough, you just give it a shake. It doesn't have to be solid on there, just enough so it doesn't fall off while you're installing it. Because when this is fitted, this spring tension will be pushing that in there so it can never come out. Right, so now we want to grab the big spring, slide it in, grab the bearing, slide that over as well, and we want to push this down. That 5mm Allen key works great for this. Right, so if we push the bearing all the way down, and then lock the 8mm bolt in to hold it. So that's now held in place by that 8mm bolt. So the bearing is now behind that bolt there. And this is now ready to go back on the bike. Now when I was doing the rear cylinder, there was a wee bit of tension there, so I did have to push it in and then get the bolts started and then just wind the bolts in evenly. That could just be depending on where the engine's sitting, how much tension's on the chain. So if you get these 5mm Allen key bolts in, don't go crazy with these bolts because it is aluminium you're going into, so just a wee nip with the Allen key is all you need. And now we put in the bearing retainer, which goes in that way, so on the outside is flat. Like so. And then you want to stick in your big spring, then you want to stick in your little spring which goes down the centre of the tube. And then you want to put your cap on. Now you will hear the tensioner click out as you do this, which is perfectly normal. The only thing you want to make sure is that the spring is sitting in the centre of that cap in that wee hole. So you heard that tensioner go out there. And just wind this up. Just a wee nip again, not crazy. And last thing we need to do is just slacken off this 8mm and you'll hear a big clank, which will be the bearing seating itself. There you go. So that big clunk there was the bearing coming back. You can just let it right off just to make sure, but that was the noise we need to hear. And then just screw it back in and give it a wee nip. Not crazy again. Right, so now I'll just give the bike a wee start up, make sure I haven't fucked anything. Right guys, so that's job done. Super simple to do. Now I didn't have a massive rattle on this and it was quite hard to hear over the exhaust anyway, but it's certainly a much needed modification on this bike. As you've seen with that front cylinder, I was one click away from being fully extended. My bike's done 42,000 Ks, so yeah, it was much needed. Now, there's no harm in doing this at any time on the bike. You could do this on a brand new bike and it's only going to benefit you. So thanks for watching this. Hope you found it helpful, and if you've got any more questions, let me know in the comments below. And I will catch you all next time, guys. See ya.